This week's game status report, not kind to the Washington Commanders. Laremy Tunsil and Daron Payne ruled out, means that the depth on both sides of the ball are going to be tested to hold the line against the Dallas Cowboys.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the world. I am David Harrison, your guy on the ground covering the Washington Commanders as a credential member of the media for WUSA 9. Also doing it in writing for Commanders on SI. And of course, I'm here with you 5 days a week. Coming up on today's episode, we're going to go over a same game parlay that I think might be able to win you some Christmas Day cash, along with a couple of stocking stuffers that I've built for you. But first, the game day status report for the Washington Commanders ahead of Christmas Day matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. Not kind to the trenches for the Washington Commanders is really going to test the depth on each side of the ball. All that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And it's all brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. The game status report coming out Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon, I should say, the day before the Washington Commanders Week 17 game, Christmas Day, hosting the Dallas Cowboys in Northwest Stadium. Laremy Tunsil, Daron Payne, both ruled out for this game. Jaden Daniels, of course, ruled out. Marcus Mariota also ruled out for the game. We expected, obviously Marcus, as the week went on, kind of expected Laremy Tunsil, to be quite honest with you, than Daron Payne, another guy that wasn't being seen around practice during the week. And really, this has kind of become a little bit of a war of attrition. The NFL season in itself is a war of attrition, but the Washington Commanders just continue to kind of see these injuries pile up for them. And this time in the trenches, we've said it 100 times. We'll say it 100 times more. It's hard to be good when you're bad in the trenches, hard to be bad when you're good in the trenches. The Washington Commanders have been beaten up on the defensive side of the ball in the trenches, but until last week, really, for the most part, not too bad on the offensive line side of things. I know Sam Cosmi started the season, obviously recovering from the knee injury he suffered in the playoffs last year, but Laremy Tunsil, Chris Paul, Tyler Biadasz, Sam Cosmi, once he got back onto the field, and Josh Harley Jr., for the most part, have been able to stay a pretty healthy group. And that all changed last week. Sam Cosmi suffering concussion. He ends up going on IR, so his season is done. Laremy Tunsil suffers that oblique injury. He missed last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. And, of course, he's going to miss this game here against the Dallas Cowboys as well. Potentially will be back against the Philadelphia Eagles next week, although at this point, and I think a lot of you would probably agree, more important to see if Brandon Coleman can stack some good games. We'll see what he does here. He's dealing with a shin injury of his own. So second-year offensive lineman, starting left tackle all last year, did a pretty decent job, I thought, especially for a rookie. They went out there, got the veteran. You can't hate that move. Moved him into left guard. Didn't work out. Chris Paul ends up coming up in his place, and now he's filling in back out at left tackle. Had a really good showing filling in for Laremy Tunsil once he got hurt against the New York Giants. Had a pretty solid game overall, relatively speaking, against the Philadelphia Eagles. So we'll see what he can do against the Dallas Cowboys here again, dealing with a shin injury that he suffered against the Philadelphia Eagles, but he's been healthy enough to start and is going to have to try to help anchor that offensive line that all of a sudden has 2/5 of its starters out of action. Andrew Wiley filling in at right guard for Sam Cosmi for the rest of the season. I think Nick Allegretti, DQ basically indicated that he and Nick Allegretti might get some rotational work there at right guard. Both of those guys, veteran players, previous Super Bowl champions, all that kind of stuff. On top of the game day inactive list, you also end up having practice squad elevations. The Washington Commanders did elevate 2 players from the practice squad for action on Thursday. Wide receiver River Craycraft, which you can say essentially is replacing Jalen Lane. He's a pure depth guy. Don't expect a lot of targets unless it gets really out of hand and the starters get out of play or get pulled from the game, that kind of thing. And defensive tackle Ricky Barber, who we have not seen so far yet this season. Again, sliding in there. Daron Payne's not going to be active, so you slide in another D tackle. Expect Johnny Newton and Javon Kinlaw to try to hold things down. But Eddie Goldman is also on injured reserve, so Ricky Barber going to have an opportunity to get some snaps here in this game against the Dallas Cowboys. And, of course, quarterback Sam Hartman, not elevated from the practice squad because he was signed to the active roster, which means he can be that third emergency quarterback, which means he's going to suit up on Thursday, Christmas Day, against the Dallas Cowboys. He'll be in pads, be in helmet, a whole 9 yards, but he will be a game day inactive player as the emergency quarterback. Basically what that means is if Josh Johnson or Jeff Driscoll gets injured, what the Commanders then can do if they want to is make whichever of those quarterbacks gets injured inactive, make Sam Hartman active, and then you have another quarterback that you can bring up. So that's what's going to be up for Hartman. For the Dallas Cowboys side of things, offensive tackle Tyler Guyton has been placed on IR. We didn't expect him to play this week anyway, and he's certainly not going to at all, as he's been placed on IR as well. Linebacker DeMarvion Overshown, we talked about him in an episode this week and how his expected absence, could actually help Ben Sinnott get a little bit more action this weekend, or this week, I should say. He has officially been ruled out by the Dallas Cowboys with that concussion. So we'll see if Ben Sinnott and the Cliff Kingsbury offense can take advantage, as DeMarvion Overshown, a better pass defending grade according to PFF than any other linebacker, and including other safeties on the Dallas Cowboys defense. So literally your best middle and intermediate pass coverage guy out for this game. So let's see if the Washington Commanders can do something on that. The Cowboys elevated defensive back Corey Ballantyne. They signed him to the active roster. Didn't elevate him. They signed him to the active roster. Some veteran depth there as a DB. And linebacker Justin Barron was elevated from the practice squad. Expect him to be some special teams depth kind of guy for the Dallas Cowboys. So this game is going to be dictated by which side of the trenches, which side of these injuries can hold up the most. But with a backup quarterback, we're going to put our money where the volume is on two key Commanders that can help you unwrap some FanDuel winnings on Christmas Day. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this bonus episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you in part by Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports. You got college bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes, and the best part is it's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right choice is with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest way for you to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineups, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, and Virginia. Prize Picks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule, letting you create a lineup in less than a minute, and the app makes the entire process incredibly smooth and intuitive, and deposits and withdrawals are very quick. They're very easy, which keeps everything flowing smoothly. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day, to the everydayers who come through for every episode. A special thank you goes out to you for coming through for yet another one, and to all of you for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network around. If you're a true diehard Washington Commanders fan, our everydayer all access tier is built for you. You get one-on-one access to me. You get all access episodes like locker room audio, things like that. You get exclusive newsletters, a 15% discount to the Locked On merch store, and ad-free versions of these episodes. Head to lockedoncommanders.supercast.com to join the Everydayer Club and unlock your all access tier. You can also find a link for all that in the show notes. Regardless of whether you're on YouTube or on audio, you can get access to that. With a backup quarterback playing, and not even just the backup, but the backup to the backup, Josh Johnson, confirmed by Dan Quinn on Wednesday, will start Thursday, Christmas Day, against the Dallas Cowboys. So not Jaden, not Marcus. The backup's backup. With that, we are betting on volume for 2 key players for the Washington Commanders that can help you unwrap some FanDuel winnings here on Christmas Day. Those 2 Commanders are running back Chris Rodriguez Jr., wide receiver Terry McLaurin, and we're going to throw in a Cowboy in the mix here. We are going to throw in CeeDee Lamb as well. Our same game parlay for this one, and again, it's been a little bit since we've done a betting segment here, but when I tell you these bets, I put my money where my mouth is. If I'm telling you I like these bets, I'm also putting money on these bets. And again, I'm not betting my mortgage or my car payment, so please bet responsibly. I bet responsibly and put very little money on these because I do it just for fun. I don't do it actually trying to make a whole lot of money. It's just a little bit of seasoning to the pot roast or whatever you want to call it. So same game parlay. This one comes in at plus 230 odds, at least when I did it. Again, the odds shift from time to time. So if you go to put these in, might be a little bit different. But the first leg of our 3-leg same game parlay, Chris Rodriguez Jr., running back, captain for this game. Typically, Dan Quinn, he uses this captaincy as a little bit of a carrot. Kind of means, either you're going to get involved or you had a really good game. Chris Rodriguez Jr., I think he's been doing very well, so it's a little bit of both. But certainly, Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt was kind of the running back of the last game as far as scoring the touchdown and doing all those things. But I think this is kind of a sign of Chris Rodriguez Jr. going to be a big part of this. Also, when backup quarterbacks come in, especially backups to backups, it just makes sense to lean on the rushing attack. Now, the Washington Commanders, not great about running up the middle. The Dallas Cowboys, pretty solid defending runs up the middle. Quinnen Williams is going to be playing in this game. They've got a good defense up there. Running on the perimeter is going to be interesting. Laremy Tunsil was a big part of that. Sam Cosmi was a big part of that. So I'm not telling you it's going to be easy, but the last time these two teams played, Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt averaged 2.5 yards per carry. Chris Rodriguez averaged 4 yards per carry. If you can get even a little bit of that, if Chris Rodriguez can get about 10, 11, 12 touches in this game as a runner, I think 40 or more rushing yards is a blind that he can hit. So our first leg, Chris Rodriguez Jr., 40-plus rushing yards in our same game parlay. Leg number 2, wide receiver Terry McLaurin, the same amount of yards, but catching 40-plus receiving yards. The Dallas Cowboys allowed 257 passing yards to the Washington Commanders the last time they saw each other, week 7, even though Terry McLaurin was not on the field. Now Terry McLaurin is on the field. It's not Jaden Daniels. It's not Marcus Mariota, but Josh Johnson. Usually your backups tend to kind of lock into those wide receiver number ones. And if things get a little bit out of hand in favor of the Dallas Cowboys in that top 5 scoring offense, Cowboys are going to start playing softer, keep a lid on things. Terry McLaurin might take him about 6 catches, but I think 40-plus yards is certainly reachable for him. So leg 2, Terry McLaurin, 40 or more receiving yards. And finally, leg 3, Dallas Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb to get 60 or more receiving yards. Lamb had 110 yards, and the first time these two teams went off or faced off against each other, had a single 74-yard catch. So I think that this is a pretty good one to probably land 60-plus receiving yards. If you want to be a little bit more conservative on that, you can, but I think 60-plus receiving yards feels good for me. So again, that same game parlay, Chris Rodriguez Jr., 40-plus rushing yards, Terry McLaurin, 40-plus receiving yards, CeeDee Lamb, 60-plus receiving yards for about a plus 230 odd line. Again, those odds are going to fluctuate depending on how long it's been since I placed my bet versus if and when you place the bet. A couple stocking stuffers here for you as well. I'm going to take a flyer on the captain, Chris Rodriguez Jr., captain for this game, the offensive captain. I got a $5 free play bonus bet, right? So I look at bonus bets as free money. It's not really playing with my money. I'm playing with FanDuel's money. And if I win, they give me actual money that I can use to get it back. So I'm going to use my $5 bonus play, but bonus bet on Chris Rodriguez Jr. to get 2 or more rushing touchdowns in this game. If I'm correct, it's going to pay out $65. But remember, I'm not using $5 of my own money. I'm using $5 bonus bet from FanDuel. The Washington Commanders were 3 for 3 in the red zone in the first game against the Dallas Cowboys. Some of these booked reps could include a lot of rushing attack, a lot of running the game. Josh Johnson, not nearly the athlete that a Marcus Mariota or Jaden Daniels is. So if they're going to get some running done, it's going to have to come from the running back. So I look for Chris Rodriguez Jr. and I look for Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt to also get opportunities. But hopefully Chris can find the end zone a couple times and help me turn a free $5 into a real $65 win. Stocking stuffer number 2, Ben Sinnott. We've been talking about Ben Sinnott for a while now, and I've got this instinct that whether Cliff is hearing the noise or Dan is hearing the noise, or it's just the time for it to happen. DeMarvion Overshown is out of this game. The Cowboys don't defend very well. They don't defend the middle intermediate part of the field very well either. I'm going to go the Ben Sinnott 2-leg same game parlay for him to have 3 or more catches, which would be a career high for touches in a single game. His career high so far, 2 catches in one game last year. He has never had more than 2 catches in a single game. I'm going 3 catches or more in this game for Ben Sinnott for 20 yards or more. I'm putting $5 on that. It's not a huge bet. It pays $11.12, so double my money basically. If he hits it, I'm going to go with that. So again, DeMarvion Overshown out. Tight ends are always a little bit of a safety net. We'll see if Josh Johnson wants to help out the young guy, get rolling him a little bit. So we're going to call that the breaking the Sinnott ceiling same game parlay here to wrap up this final pregame bonus episode of Locked On Commanders. That's going to do it. Next time we talk, it'll be after the Washington Commanders' 5th win of the season over the Dallas Cowboys. So make sure you are subscribed and following along Locked On Commanders so you get all of the latest episodes. And you can follow me on X at DHarrison82 or on Instagram at DHarrison_82. If you need any last-minute holiday gifts, Christmas Day is here. If you forgot to get something for somebody and you want to get it for them, or if someone says, dang, I forgot to get you a gift, what do you want? Tell them you want the Everyday Club, ad-free episodes of the show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through lockedoncommanders.supercast.com. Locked On NFL is twice per day. For your next episode, please check out Locked On NFL either on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this episode. To the Everydayers, I see you. I appreciate you every single day, and I thank you again for coming through yet again today. Until next time, everybody out there, please stay safe, be kind to one another, and we'll talk again real soon right here on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.